Hi, this will be a video about upgrading the firmware of your FrSky receiver with your Jumper T12 or T12 Pro transmitter. There are a few things that you will need to start. First, you will need an SD card inserted into the transmitter. Second, you'll need a programming cable. And third, you'll need to download the proper firmware from the FrSky website. For the firmware programming cable, I'm using FrSky RXSR receiver, and it actually comes with two cables. This cable will be the cable you'll use to attach your receiver to your flight controller. But then this cable that has the servo connector on the end of it is the one that we can use to upgrade the firmware on the receiver. And the problem that you're going to find is that two of these wires are flip-flopped. So the first thing you'll need to do is to take this black wire and this red wire and flip-flop them. In order to do that, you can get a tool, whether it be a knife or a little screwdriver or something, and just kind of pry up this little plastic tab that's holding the wire in, and then you can pull the wire out from the connector, just like that. And the same thing with the red one. And then once you have them both out, you can just put the red one in the first slot. Just press down on these little tabs. So the next thing we're going to do is go to the FrSky website, download tab, and you're going to find your receiver. So I have an RXSR. It's right here. I click on it. And then I've got a choice here of Access firmware and ACCST firmware. The ACCST firmware is what we want for the D16 protocol. And then we have another choice here in that we can get the new 2.1 version of the firmware. In order to use it, you will have to update the multi-module as well as the firmware on the transmitter if you haven't already to the latest. The latest version of OpenTX will support that firmware, so you download it here. If you have not updated and don't wish to update your transmitter, you can download the older version of the firmware here. And then once you've selected the firmware you want, if you open the zip file, you're going to have several different options here. So you've got your F port. So there's two F port files, and there's two files that do not say F port. If you're in the US, then you're going to use the FCC version. If you're in the EU, you're going to use the LBT version. Then you have to decide, are you going to use SBus or F port? So I'm going to choose to use SBus this time, and I'm in the US, so I'll use the FCC version. And then the next thing we're going to do is to remove the SD card from the transmitter. I'm going to put it in my SD card reader on the computer. And if you look on the SD card, there is a folder called Firmware. And you can see I've already drug some firmwares in there. If you have not already, your folder may be empty. So you just want to take and choose the firmware that you're going to use and just drag it right into that folder. You can see I've already done that, so I'm going to skip it here. But so mine's already on there. So now that we've got that done, we can put the SD card back in the transmitter. So the next thing we're going to do is turn our T12 over, and we're going to actually remove this external module, just the cover that comes on it. And we need to install our programming cable into the T12. On this connector on the back, the bottom pin is your S-bus pin. The middle pin is the ground, which is why we move the black cable to the middle now. And the third pin up is going to be your plus 5 volts. So we're going to install this connector onto those 3 pins. So make sure your yellow wire is on the bottom, your black wire is in the middle, and your red wire is on the top, and you're on the bottom 3 pins. And next, we're going to take our receiver and plug it into the programming cable. Okay. So now we turn on our transmitter.
Welcome to OpenTX.
So the next thing we're going to do is go into the system menu. To get there on the T12, you're going to hold down this left button, and you're going to see a tools menu here, but we want to hit the right button and scroll over to the SD card. Then we're going to go down to the firmware folder, and we're going to press enter. And then we're going to find the firmware that we're going to write to the receiver and press enter on that. And we've got 3 different options: flash S port, flash internal module, and flash external module. We don't have an S port on the T12, so we're going to go down to flash external module, which is where our receiver is plugged in. And if you look right now, there is no light on the receiver. So we're going to hit enter on flash external module. We should see the receiver light up, and we'll see the menu on the transmitter say that it's writing. Okay, and once you're done, you should see the flash successful, and you're all done. So you can unplug your cable from the back of the transmitter and from the receiver, and you just want to store that cable away in case you ever need to update the firmware again.